Hey, where are you off to at this hour? As soon as Michael, my husband, saw the incoming call on his phone, he stopped eating and went back to his room. He then grabbed his jacket and was about to leave the house. We were finally having some rare family time together. No, just now my mom called saying she fell at home and can't move, so she needs help. I'm going to take her to the emergency clinic right away. You guys don't need to worry about anything. With those words, Michael dashed out of the house. It was a sudden event and I just watched him leave, but it was strange because he never really cared about Julia, his mother. Why would he suddenly be concerned about his mom now? Plus, I only saw the phone for a moment, but it seemed like the caller ID was set to private. It's odd to have your own mother's number set to us were unknown. His actions just now made everything seem even more suspicious. A few minutes after Michael left, the doorbell rang suddenly. Hello, Kyrie. I heard you weren't feeling well, so I made some stew and brought it over. What's going on here? When I opened the door, there was Julia, supposedly unable to move, standing right there with a pot in her hands. What? Julia! Michael just rushed out saying you had fallen and couldn't move. That's when I knew for sure. Michael had lied about Julia being immobile and had left, trampling over our family time. My name is Kyrie Stephen. I live with my husband Michael and our elementary school-aged son, Theo. Life isn't easy with the recent spike in living costs, but the three of us are living happily together. We met when we were both college students. I happened to stop by a cafe where Michael was working. Being shy, I was so nervous about his good looks the first time I saw him alone that I couldn't even speak properly as a customer. Was this love at first sight? Throughout my life, I never believed in love at first sight. I thought it was more of a myth than anything else. So, when I found myself experiencing it, I didn't know what to do and was quite flustered. I turned to a friend from high school, who had plenty of experience in romance, seeking advice on what I should do. If you're interested, why not just talk to him? Otherwise, nothing will start. For me, who had only dated 2 guys until then, this seemed like a big step, but she talked about it like it was nothing. I know, but, I'm shy, and I get even more nervous around him. I can't even start a conversation. After about 10 minutes of back and forth, we decided that if I couldn't do it alone, we should go together. So, after university, we headed to the cafe where he would likely be. When we got to the shop, I saw him at the register. If I go now, I can at least talk to him, I thought, and with my friend's encouragement, I lined up to order. As my turn approached, my heart raced even faster in front of him. I spoke up as he prompted me to order. I'll have a cafe latte, please. And, would you like to be friends with me? I blurted out my first words with more courage than I could control, loud enough for other customers at the register to hear. I ended up speaking so loudly that other customers overheard me, and I felt extremely embarrassed. My shyness kicked in full force. I turned bright red, dumped the payment and order on my friend, and bolted out of the cafe. It was all over. That was all I could think about at the moment. But my bold move turned out for the better. My friend, who had followed me out, was soon followed by him, Michael. He was apparently so intrigued by my behavior at the cafe that he took his break to come after us. This unexpected turn of events led to us exchanging contact information, and after hanging out as friends for 6 months. When I finally expressed my accumulated feelings to him, it turned out he had also developed a fondness for me while we were spending time together, and we happily progressed into a romantic relationship. After several years of dating and living together, we decided to take the next step and got married. Our marriage resulted in our son, Theo, and despite the hectic life of parenting and household chores, working for my family makes any tiredness seem trivial. I used to think marriage was out of my league, but having a family changed my perspective entirely. However, there's been one major concern in our marriage. Recently, I've been troubled by how unnaturally late my husband, Michael, has been returning home. Previously, he would let me know when he was leaving work, saying things like "I'm on my way home." But lately, not only has he stopped sending those messages, but it has also become a norm for him to return home in the early morning. It's odd since he never used to wear perfume, yet now he often comes home enveloped in a sweet scent. Worried, I confronted Michael, but he brushes it off with tired excuses about work and obligatory socializing. I know I need to face the truth head-on. But thinking about our family, especially Theo, I hesitate to take the step towards divorce. The only person I can talk to is Julia, my mother-in-law. Despite our age difference, we hit it off when we first met for our marriage introduction, and since then, we've been more like friends than in-laws. Julia always supports me, listening to my concerns about household and parenting issues. However, this time, I'm hesitating because I fear it might cause unnecessary worry and emotional burden. A few years ago, Julia had a health scare. Though it wasn't serious, her age meant she couldn't live as before. When I informed Michael about Julia's condition, he didn't show concern and returned the next evening, again with the scent of perfume. This time, fortunately, the situation was discovered early and didn't escalate into something more serious. However, thinking about what could have happened had we not caught it in time brought me to the brink of an explosion of anger. But Julia, ever patient, calmed me down without a hint of anger. Since Julia's hospitalization and return home, I've been helping her with household tasks and accompanying her on shopping trips. At first, Julia felt guilty about my assistance, but when I told her I wanted to help, she graciously accepted.
Kyrie, I really can't thank you enough. You make every day so much brighter for me. No, it's me who should be thanking you, Julia. You've helped me in so many ways, and I really enjoy our talks together. Thank you.
Hearing thank you from Julia always touched my heart, something I rarely experienced. I decided then that I would always be there to protect her. On the day I made such a decision, during dinner. Today, unusually, Michael had come home early, and we were going to have dinner as a family of 3 for the first time in a while. When Michael texted that he was on his way home, I was so happy that I decided to add some appetizers to the dinner I was preparing, rummaging through the fridge and finishing up in high spirits. Theo, who was doing his homework in the living room, noticed my mood and asked curiously, "Mom, what's up? You seem to be in a really good mood."
Do I? Well, Dad's coming home early for a change. It's been a while since we've had a family dinner together, and it makes me happy.
I see. Theo responded coldly, perhaps due to his age, but I was sure he was happy on the inside. Smiling at his retreating figure as he went back to his homework, I resumed my cooking. About 30 minutes later, Michael arrived home, and we sat down for a rare family dinner. I had prepared hamburgers at Theo's request and, knowing Michael would be home early, arranged several small dishes of appetizers on the table. We chatted about Theo's day at school and other recent happenings as we ate. Though Theo had been cold earlier, he warmed up as the meal and conversation progressed, even chatting with Michael. Family meals and conversations like these were always so enjoyable. Even though Michael often came home late, reeking of sweet perfume, having dinner together like this made all my worries seem less significant. I was really feeling that now. However, as the meal was winding down, Michael's phone rang, interrupting our family conversation. He checked his phone and suddenly stopped eating. He went to his room, grabbed his jacket, and seemed ready to leave somewhere. "Hey, where are you off to at this time?" "Oh, my mom just called saying she fell at home and can't move, so she needs help. I'm gonna take her to the emergency clinic right now. You guys don't need to worry about anything," Michael said and rushed out of the house. I watched him leave, perplexed by the sudden event. He had never shown much interest in Julia before, so why worry about her now? And the call. I only saw it for a moment, but it looked like the caller ID was set to private. It's odd to have your own mother's number set to private. Just when I was reaffirming the importance of family, his actions raised my suspicions again. And then, the doorbell rang. "Kyrie, good evening. I heard you weren't feeling well, so I made some stew and brought it over. What's going on here?" When I went to see, Julia, who was supposedly unable to move after a fall, appeared in front of me holding a pot with both hands.
"What? Julia! Michael just rushed out saying you had fallen and couldn't move."
I invited Julia inside to align our stories. According to her, Michael had told her that I was unwell and resting, and she shouldn't come near the house. She had tried contacting Michael several times to check on me, but was either sidestepped or told unilaterally that everything was fine, apparently to keep Julia and me from interacting. This confirmed my suspicions. Michael lied about Julia being immobile and even trampled over our family time to go see someone else. Frustrated to my limit, I activated the GPS tracker I had installed in the car for emergencies. The GPS showed that Michael was currently driving towards the town center, and this route would lead him straight into the hotel district. It seemed likely that he was en route to meet his affair partner in the hotel district. Julia and I watched Michael's GPS movement on my phone's screen together.
If you want to divorce Michael, I will support you. I'm on your side, Kyrie.
Her words blew away all my hesitation. Encouraged by Julia, I decided to take action against Michael. The GPS pin stopped right in front of a hotel on the map, seemingly confirming Michael's infidelity. However, GPS isn't always accurate. He might not actually be at the hotel, and the location could be slightly off. To double-check, I called Michael, but after several rings, the call was cut off without an answer, and when I tried again, his phone was turned off. The call was a hopeful attempt, but with his phone off, there was nothing more I could do. It's okay, let's just leave it for today. We'll get everything out of Michael when he comes back tomorrow. So, I ended the day quietly with Theo and Julia. The next morning, before waking Theo, I went downstairs to see if Michael had returned, but he hadn't. The quiet living room, with the morning sun peeking through the slightly open curtains, was empty. He didn't come back. It's really over, isn't it? Around midday, Michael finally returned, still dressed as he had been when he left. Welcome back. There's something we need to talk about.
What? I'm tired. I've been at the emergency clinic with Mom.
Can't this wait? Michael replied, scratching his head and sighing, trying to head to his room. But Julia appeared behind me, blocking his path. You said I couldn't move after a fall? Can you explain what you mean by that? Michael's face, which had been composed, turned pale instantly. That makes sense. Last night, Michael was supposed to have rushed out to help his mother, Julia. But here she was, in good health, right in front of me. Michael, caught in the act, turned as meek as a mouse. When I took him to the living room, where I had previously called my parents to gather, his expression grew even darker upon seeing them. Seemingly realizing the gravity of the situation, Michael sat down without being prompted, ready to listen. Michael, you probably understand why we're all here. Tell us, in your own words, why you think that is. Julia pressed him, and Michael, sweating, looked down and remained silent. If you won't speak, I will. You left the house last night saying you were taking your injured mother to the emergency clinic. But you were actually in the hotel district, weren't you? But I didn't fall or get hurt. And you told me not to come near the house because Kyrie was unwell, right? Was that because my presence was inconvenient for you? I pulled out my phone and confronted Michael with the evidence that his last GPS location was at a hotel. He looked surprised to know that I had shared access to his location. Tracking Michael's whereabouts had been easy, but I had never activated the app before, busy with childcare and household chores, and restrained by my conscience. Michael looked at me, wanting to ask how I installed the app, but the situation rendered him speechless. That makes sense. If he questioned me about it here, it would be like admitting he had been going to questionable places. He probably thinks that if he doesn't say anything himself, even with some evidence present, the full truth won't come to light. That must be his calculation. However, such tactics won't work on me or Julia. Even if Michael remains silent, we are determined to pursue the truth to the very end.
Michael, can you please explain what's going on?
No, this is. Michael stammered, but his phone suddenly vibrated. I didn't miss the brief clouding of Michael's expression when he glanced at his phone, possibly thinking it might be a work-related call. I quickly grabbed the phone, and there was a message from a woman saying you left something behind, along with a photo of a young woman in her 20s holding Michael's coin purse.
What's this? Who is this young girl? You're not going to tell me some transparent lie about her being a junior at work, right?
The photo sent by his affair partner was unexpected, even for Michael. His face turned from blue to white. Michael, who had been silent, now had nowhere to escape.
Michael, call this woman right now. Get her to explain everything.
Julia said in a tone I had never heard from her before. The weight of her words was immense. The intensity of the situation was so overwhelming that I couldn't help but get goosebumps. Michael, unable to resist the pressure, obediently made the call. And put it on speaker so we all could hear. The woman Michael had an affair with seems to be named Elise Oliver. The tone and manner of speaking are like that of a young woman in her early 20s, with a modern, trendy, and somewhat flashy style. Was she Michael's actual type? You were with Michael last night, weren't you? Did you know he was married? Or were you unaware of his marital status? Yes, I knew. Michael himself told me. He kept complaining about his personal life every time we met in a hotel. I'm used to listening, but honestly, it's been exhausting. So, you knew he was married and still met him, having secret meetings in a hotel, and you even called him to the hotel district last night? Well, I did call him, but it was Michael who forgot about the hotel reservation we had made. So, I was wondering what we were going to do and contacted him yesterday. So, Michael had rushed out of the house last night in response to a call about a forgotten appointment. He chose his affair over family time. Michael, who used to be kind and family-oriented, changed after getting married and after Theo was born. Rather than feeling anger or sadness, I felt an overwhelming sense of emptiness. My mother looked puzzled, and my father seemed about to explode with anger. I've known about Michael's infidelity for a while. But I didn't want to worry everyone and kept silent. I thought about divorcing, but then there was Theo. I didn't want to make his life harder by raising him alone. So that's why you seemed down when you came to visit me. Did it show on my face? It's not exactly like that. I may not be as perceptive as your parents, but I'm a mother too, and I've known Kyrie for a long time. I had a feeling that you might be troubled by something. Though I thought I was suppressing it to avoid troubling others, I might have been unwittingly sending out an SOS without even realizing it myself. Maybe part of me wanted someone to notice. But now, I don't have to worry anymore. Thanks to opening up and sharing my feelings with everyone, and having them acknowledge these feelings, I was able to let go of everything and move on. I can't be with someone who has such a bad attitude towards women and doesn't value family. I want a divorce, Michael. I was finally able to express my feelings to Michael. Then, Michael, who had been silent, let out a sigh. This is all your fault, you know? Before we got married, you were all womanly, but you lost your charm right after. That's why I've been hanging out with cute, young girls like Elise. What's wrong with that? He unabashedly blamed me for his infidelity, claiming it was my fault for losing my charm as a woman. His unreasonable shifting of blame and defiance made my anger boil. Sure, since Theo's birth, I've been too busy with housework and childcare to have time for myself. But it was because I valued our family's happiness. For the sake of my family's happiness and living together with smiles, I was content not spending time or money on myself. But Michael trampled all over those feelings, lost in his affairs, putting family second, if at all. He probably thought providing money for the family was enough. You really don't understand how hard it is to be a mother. I also sacrificed my own needs for childcare and housework. Michael, you're really hopeless. That's too much, Michael. Despite the criticism, Michael leaned back in his chair, unfazed, fiddling with his phone. He showed no signs of remorse. Even if he had shown remorse, it wouldn't change the fact that forgiveness is no longer an option. However, one would expect at least some of our words to resonate with him, but there was no sign of that in Michael's demeanor. The discussion, which started in the afternoon, stretched for hours, and before we knew it, Theo returned from school. I'm home. Wait, why are Grandma and Grandpa here, and everyone else too? Hey, Theo. Welcome back. Listen to this. Theo gave Michael, who had clung to him, a cold look. Please don't touch me. I can't see you as my dad anymore, because you've been out meeting other women, ignoring our family, and hurting Mom. It seemed Theo, even as a young boy, understood everything. Everyone present, including me, was surprised. We had never spoken to anyone, let alone the family, about Michael's infidelity. In fact, I had never discussed Michael's wandering ways with anyone. Yet, somehow, Theo had noticed. Theo! You're going to abandon me too? Who do you think raised you, gave you everything you wanted? It was me, right? No, Mom raised me. She cooked for me even when she was busy, and yes, the money might be yours, but it was Mom who bought everything I wanted. That's thanks to me, right? Who do you think lets us live in this house? My hard work lets you all have a warm life under this roof. Be grateful. The words "be grateful" came out of Michael's mouth. As soon as I heard them, I found myself moving unconsciously, and before I knew it, I had forcefully slapped Michael's cheek. What gratitude, huh? Do you have any idea how much I struggled,
keeping the household budget for our future, removing lipstick from your suit collars? Collars? You mean you knew?
I grabbed a shirt from the laundry basket and threw it at Michael, who was now on the floor.
Do you know how to get lipstick off a shirt? You soak it in hot water, then apply detergent directly to the spot. I learned that cleaning up after your messes. Ever thought about how I felt doing that? I bet you haven't.
After I had shouted this, I took a breath and came back to my senses. There on the floor lay Michael, holding his reddened cheek, looking up at me. All the struggles I had endured for such a man.
You've got it now, right? Divorce Kyrie now. And as an apology for all the stress you've caused, swear here that you'll never bother us again. Don't come near Mom, or me, or Grandma and Grandpa anymore. You were never my dad to begin with. Just leave now.
Rejected even by Theo, whom he thought was on his side, Michael had lost his place. I firmly demanded a divorce and alimony, and declared that I would never relinquish custody of Theo. My parents cut off all contact with Michael, deleting his information, and Julia, despite being his mother, decided she could no longer be involved with him. Michael, now being rejected by everyone, left the house without much resistance, walking towards the downtown area with his head down under the evening sky. Later, we learned that his affair partner, Elise, was also married and faced a hefty alimony demand from her husband. Elise's ability to pay seemed doubtful, but that was her problem. Michael signed the divorce papers without much fuss and agreed to pay alimony and child support until Theo finished high school. However, this drastically changed his once comfortable and slightly lavish lifestyle. Now living in a shabby apartment on the outskirts of town, struggling financially. It seems that because Michael had always left all the household chores to me, he never learned to cook. Now, relying on deli meals and takeout, he's apparently struggling financially. It was a self-inflicted result of his actions. As for me, after the divorce, I decided to move back home with Theo to my parents' house. Our family home is in a rural area, so, unfortunately, Theo had to transfer schools due to personal circumstances. However, the silver lining was that he didn't complain and obediently agreed to the change, which was a huge relief for me. Theo's friends looked a bit sad, but Theo, having matured a bit through this ordeal, reassured them by saying, "I'll definitely come to visit," even though he was the one transferring schools. He comforted his friends despite being in the situation of leaving. Seeing my son grow up so resilient made me proud to share his story with my parents. Julia and I remained close after the divorce. And despite initially refusing, I accepted some financial help from her. Thanks to that support, I didn't have any trouble with my living expenses. Now, when our schedule meet, I take Theo out for meals together, or he receives gifts on his birthday. He seems happy, surrounded by so many caring people. Since I moved back to my parents' house, they help take care of Theo even on weekdays. This allowed me to rejoin the pharmacy where I worked before my marriage, leading to fulfilling days at work. Now, when I return home, Theo and my parents are there to greet me. The moment of gathering around the dining table with my family is the happiest time for me above all else.